It isn't about shoving your business card in everyone's face. Whether you're out for coffee with a coworker or neighbor or at an industry conference, these tips will help you build meaningful, lasting connections that are worth much more than that stack of business cards from people you barely recall meeting. Speaking of conferences, this episode is live from FinCon18, a conference for those of us in the money niche. Joining me on stage are Miranda Marquit and Kyle Prevost. Both are past guests of the MapleMoney Show, but the reason I brought them on was to have a Money Mastermind Show reunion, a podcast we had a few years ago that I always explained as The View for personal finance. Welcome to the MapleMoney Show, the podcast that helps Canadians improve their personal finances to create lasting financial freedom. Do you have a larger portfolio that's being dragged down by the fees that are typical with mutual funds? Have a look at Wealthsimple Black from our sponsor, Wealthsimple. For portfolios over $100,000, Wealthsimple drops the fee down to 0.4%, gives you access to financial planning and tax loss harvesting. They even throw in airport lounge access. Check them out at maplemoney.com/wealthsimple. Now let's go live on stage at FinCon18 with Miranda and Kyle. Hi, Miranda, and hi, Kyle. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, it's nice to be here in person at FinCon.
Yeah, it's nice to be here looking out at a massive crowd here at FinCon, Tom, so thanks for having us on to chat.
For people that aren't aware, a long time ago...
In a galaxy far, far away.
We were all part of a panel podcast called the Money Mastermind Show.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have this chance while we're all together to rekindle some of that, but still be part of the Maple Money Show. In fact, a lot of times when I say Maple Money Show at the beginning of a podcast, I stumble on it a little, and it's still
so got that reflex.
Money Mastermind Show is in my head. It's still MMS, and it's
yeah, it's there. Quite a bit. Good memories.
So I did want to just thank Ally Bank. They're sponsoring the live podcasting here at FinCon18, which is where we are right now. It's a conference for financial bloggers, and because of that, we kind of wanted to talk about networking, not just for bloggers, but networking affects anyone, whether it's for your career or your personal life. Let's go straight into conference networking. For us, yes, we're at a blog conference, but you could just as easily be down the hall from us. There's a Barnes & Noble conference. Do you guys have sort of any tips along the lines of how you could benefit your career with conferences?
Yeah, I think there's sort of inauthentic and authentic networking. There's like the inauthentic networking that was taught at business schools like 10 years ago, I think. I wasn't there, but and that's like shake a hand, trade a business card, what can I do for you? Slick salesman approach. Maybe that got someone somewhere, but it didn't get me anywhere. I don't think I've ever made a contact that way.
Did you try?
Yeah, I did. My first FinCon, I was pretty humble, pretty young, and I was like, the key is to get my business card out there to as many people. Everybody knows that. Spent a lot of time designing my business card. I don't even bring business cards now. Maybe that's not a great idea, but...
I always forget mine.
I feel that the more authentic, where you are just having an actual conversation with people and learning what makes them tick, their why, if you want to get a little buzzwordy, you're going to build some longer lasting friendships that are sort of more naturally going to lead to things. And you're going to end up with some sort of natural groupings of pretty bright people if you just sort of let things develop a little more naturally and invest some actual time and emotion into the network, into meeting people, instead of being so transactional, so blatantly transactional, like, well, how can I make money off of you? Maybe you can make money off of me, and here's our cards. And now we have a suitcase full of cards to go home with and no actual plan to talk to anyone. So,
yeah, I'm a little more pro card than that, but I do agree. Like you build a real relationship with people, and a business card can be handy if you have a pen and you write something down about that person. So it doesn't become someone you completely forget. Because at a conference like this, I can go home with 100 business cards.
Oh, easy, yeah.
So anything else?
No, I really like the idea of the authentic networking and being who you are. But the nice thing about networking at a conference is that you actually find people who are kind of in your same space and who know the things you know, and so you have that chance for like a real connection. And you don't get that all the time if you're just randomly networking whatever. So the nice thing about a conference is you are going to be in the space, and you can be very focused and very strategic about how you go about it. And one of the nice things also about like a conference like FinCon or like the Barnes & Noble conference or whatever it is, you really have a chance to learn things and then also say, okay, who's going to be attending? Is there somebody I really want to meet and get to know? And you can kind of go from there. And I think that helps a lot too with a conference like this, is that connection and, the space, because you have something in common that you can build on, and that really kind of helps you make that authentic connection down the road.
Yeah. Another thing within this sort of networking for career, I try to go for coffee as often as once a week with just a random person. I actually use my LinkedIn a lot for this.
Nice.
I'll search by normally the town I live in, but also if I'm going somewhere else, you guys have known this before, I'll sort of get a few people together from that town. LinkedIn's a great way to do that because you've already got all these contacts, and you can sort them by where you live or where you're visiting, and it's so easy to just say, well, let's go out for a meal, let's go out for a coffee, and those kind of connections is so much easier than being at a 2,000 person conference where you have to sort of get rid of that huge number and work it down to something manageable.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the semi-immediate reach out after a conference. So maybe you got the business card, like Tom says, you wrote down a couple unique things or maybe some ideas you had, because there's the tendency when you get back to, oh my God, I've got 500 emails, and in my case as a teacher, I've got sub-plans, and kids didn't do it, and like day-to-day life has grinded to a halt for you for, several days. And then all those sort of impactful things you can take away can get just lost in the normal noise. And one of those things can be, man, who was that person again? Or, how were we planning on doing things? And just don't copy and paste something. Make like a genuine, whether it's a LinkedIn connection, whether it's an email, and make a genuine effort to say, hey, thanks for the coffee the other day, or thanks for taking some time to talk with me at the such and such mixer. And I think that goes a long way in terms of being authentic.
And that's why I like writing on the business cards, is because my memory's terrible. So if I meet someone for the first time, I need to remember why I was even going to follow up with that person and what did we talk about. It's helped out a lot, or else I can't follow up. Another thing along the idea of sort of building these business opportunities is something I know Kyle really wanted to get into, was you've got your friend on Facebook, and they're trying to tell you about how great their latest multi-level marketing opportunity is, and they consider that a form of networking. They're building a network, that's true, but it's kind of under the wrong reason that they should probably be doing that.
Yeah, I guess because I'm a business teacher, maybe this is a little personal for me, because a lot of the examples of businesses, when I ask my students, have your parents or anyone ever thought of starting their own business, or how many? And you get the hands up. Oh yeah, my mom sold the latest pour powder into water, and your body will be perfect. Crazes.
Ooh, I want one.
Yeah, right. And for now, they're only $3.99. Yeah, exactly.
I can buy a membership.
And just the idea of these courses that these multi-level marketers have now put up, and it's not a pyramid. Just because the highest earners earn 98% of their income off of people beneath them as opposed to selling the product, and the organizational chart looks like a pyramid, it's not a pyramid. It's just multi-levels.
Oh, totally.
And I think this is it's predatory in my opinion, and actually I think there is an element of sexism to it when you look at how these companies are marketed towards women, and just the idea of monetizing your friendships. It just seems very distasteful and odd, and in some cases criminal. So really, if you're going to look into some of these, and they won't call themselves multi-level marketers, they'll call themselves multi-vertical something, and whatever. Just do your homework, understand how the revenues work, look up how the company is structured, and take a look at their products. Are they priced properly? How are they able, when you think about how profit margins work in sort of business 101, how are these companies able to kick money up to 8 different people on the food chain and still sort of make a profit? The business model doesn't make sense. Walmart would be selling these products if it made sense.
Well, and I think the key that you've come up with here is anything that says, hey, your networking is like selling to your friends, like that's not the kind of networking you want to do. Like you said, you were talking about authenticity earlier, and and I've had people like reach out to me, like old high school friends, or like message, like reach out to me through like Facebook Messenger, and they're like, hey, I would like to network with you and like get to know you again, and how's it been going, and how can I help you live your life better? And by the way, I'm a Beachbody coach. Will you please buy this thing and be part of my group, and I'll totally coach you. It's definitely something that, if you're going to be networking and you're trying to advance your career, if it's off of monetizing your friends, that's probably the wrong way to go about it.
Yeah, one, there's only so far you can go with that before you've destroyed every relationship you have. And it's not a real business, and it's not real networking. It's very insincere.
Definitely.
Can we go into some of your number one, top 5 sort of networking tips? Like what would you suggest people do when they do want to build a real relationship with someone that it's going to possibly further their business, or you'll be able to work together somehow?
Go ahead, Miranda.
Oh, I get to start? So my number one tip, so I'm an introvert. You may or may not know, who knows, whatever. So I'm an introvert, and so my top tip is to follow Tom Drake around at a conference, and because he's an extrovert and he meets people. So if you're an introvert, one of the things I like to do is I like to latch onto an extrovert and let him do the heavy lifting. But the other thing, too, is remember to pace yourself, especially if you are an introvert and you are having the energy sucked out of you by all of this social interaction. I like to go have a nap or go up to my room and just chill for a couple hours before I have to get out there and do it again. So that's very helpful. And then I do try and like say hi to people I don't know, and it's hard, and I don't like it, but sometimes it has to be done. But I'm sure you guys have better tips, because my tips just consist of, hiding in my room so I have the energy to follow Tom around and meet people.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up introvert and extrovert, because I'm probably still really an introvert when it comes to that idea of, does being around a lot of people drain you? Mm-hmm. Granted, I'm probably more in the bubble between that. But
you're an ambivert.
But ultimately, running around here is going to drain me more than fill me up. I'm also going to have a nap at some point today and recharge. But then, I want to get back out there and I want to meet new people. And you're welcome to follow me around.
I will. I will.
I think my number one tip is it's hard because I've just said be authentic, and now I'm telling you how to be like authentic, which is kind of in itself
so fake,
a weird.
Kyle.
Yeah,
You're
it's
so
like
fake.
I'm getting pretty meta here, but it's like how can I give specific tips for you to be more you? But one thing I will say is be curious. People like to talk about themselves. It's pretty natural, and don't just ask a question and then stare blankly as they talk, because it's going to become pretty readily apparent that you don't really care and you're just sort of, again, being transactional. I have to say maybe there's a little bit of sort of inherent curiosity to people, but if you are genuinely want to know more, and generally people that go to these conferences I find are pretty interesting people by and large, it will help. One, you'll just learn cool stuff, and you'll also, it is a quick way to sort of maybe experience more authenticity in your conversations.
And similar to that, and someone that does it better than I do even, is John Rampton. He'll come up to you, and I do try to model this, is ask people what you can do for them. If you're constantly giving, it's going to benefit you in the long run. It doesn't have to be a constant, what can that person do for me? And then that's often the people that are handing out those business cards. It's I want you to promote this thing for me, or I want you to work for me, and it's always one-sided that way. But if you're just constantly trying to help people, things are going to happen. If it's your career, maybe you're helping someone in one business, and all of a sudden they've got someone in their business that needs a new hire, and then you're moving on to that. It gets you noticed. It gets you. I don't want to call it karma, but maybe a little bit, though.
You're putting good vibes on.
Well, that's what I mean. It sounds like I'm headed that direction, but it does just seem to work out. Like
you just got new agey up in this business.
Yeah, and I don't mean to do that, but just in my own business, 10 years online, you build up relationships by constantly giving, and it does seem to come back to you.
One quick thing, when I was getting ready to come, I saw someone had posted on Facebook in the group basically saying, hey, quick shout out to, and I'm going to go ahead and guess it was probably a fellow my size, a bigger guy. Not everyone likes to be hugged. And now this may sound like readily apparent, but I've since found out that this is much more widespread than I would have ever guessed. Like, be conservative the first time you meet someone in terms of like, don't go in for that full out hug unless like you've gotten some crazy signal, like a blinking green neon light that says like, I want a hug. And even then, I don't know if that's a good bet.
I like
but
hugs.
Yeah, and from people you know.
I'll take them for people I don't know.
In general, though,
All right.
makes
Well,
sense.
that's an interesting.
But no,
we
the
may
first
have to
time-
delve into that at some point.
The first time I meet somebody, yes, I'd prefer a handshake, honestly. But I was cognizant of that as somebody who does like the hugs and is kind of a little more handsy than maybe I should be sometimes. I have been making it a point to people that I don't know particularly well, that maybe I've met once or twice, asking them hey, do we hug? Are we hugging acquaintances? Because I think that is important to keep in mind as you're networking, as you're doing things. The whole don't be creepy situation really comes up a lot of the time. Don't be creepy. And I think that was a very valid point that was made. I mean, people you, Kyle,
Bigger
and Tom. Well, no, you guys, I'm just going in for the hug.
Right,
It's a long
We're old
hug, and I expect the bear hug.
It's built up over time, though. That becomes a friendship. When you're meeting someone for the first time, there's that first impression, and I like how you said, kind of be conservative with how you meet them. Are there any other sort of rules of engagement? Do you
just be aware of nonverbal communication?
Yeah.
Really is what make eye contact. Pretty basics. This is maybe the part of business 101 that does make a little bit of sense. I think a lot of those Dale Carnegie type rules still apply today, and just be aware of what your body's doing. It may sound dumb, but be engaged with what contact or sort of impression you're giving.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, one thing I like to do is if I'm talking to someone and someone else comes up, turn your body a little bit, turn that into a triangle of people.
It sounds simple, but that's a big deal.
Yeah,
you want to be inclusive.
Make sure they met each other. Again, about giving back all the time. If someone walks up, one of the simplest icebreakers is just, oh, hi, so-and-so, have you met so-and-so? And then everybody feels like part of the thing, and everyone's kind of getting a chance to meet someone.
Right, yeah, and I like that a lot. And actually, I was doing that earlier today. I was talking to somebody, and some folks came over to say hi, and I kind of turned and I said, oh, hey, I said, hi, nice to see you again, and oh, by the way, have you met so-and-so? And I think that that's a huge thing, because it is important to be, be inclusive. And one of the things that's hard, especially if you're in a big conference, if you're in a small kind of LinkedIn thing, when you do the meetup, or if you're with your neighborhood, if you're doing a networking thing in your neighborhood, or I like to do, I'm active in my Chamber of Commerce, that's a good place to network as well. We didn't touch on that, and maybe I'll just say that real briefly. But if you have a local business, a small business association or a Chamber of Commerce, those are great places to meet people. And when you're in those small places, it's easier to kind of branch out and meet new people, I find. When you're in a big conference like this, and especially someone like me, it's really hard for me to branch out. I kind of tend to kind of collapse in on myself, and I just want to stick with the people I know and that I'm comfortable with. And so being able to keep that in mind and be inclusive and take a step back and open up and show that open body language and say, oh, hey, have you met so-and-so? And be a connector as well as a networker. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. The Chamber of Commerce is a great example, because for a lot of people listening to this show, they're not bloggers, they're not online. So local is most of it. And a lot of these tips apply. If you can be the person that's connecting other people locally or within your business, I don't want to be sleazy about it, but there's a power to being the person with the connections. When you can always find something for someone, it's very helpful. You also mentioned just the idea of local, in your neighborhood. Another thing I did want to touch on is things like moms networking.
Or dads networking.
Yes, they might be stay at home, they might be interested in parenting, and I guess especially with Miranda, have you kind of done this before? Sort of reached out to other parents and
How long have you known me?
Quite a while.
What about that makes you think that I have a mom group?
Well, you're more likely than me to have a mom group.
Yes, that's true, because I am in fact a mother.
Yeah.
No, I actually haven't done a lot of that locally, and I probably should. I do have a goal to try and have more female friends in my life. We're working on that. We're working on it. But I think the same thing we're talking about, with the Chamber of Commerce or the Small Business Association, or even groups like service organizations like the Civitans or the Rotary Club or Kiwanis International. Those kinds of service organizations can be great places to network, get to know people, find similar charitable passions or projects you can work on with other folks. And that can be a good way to be a connector as well. And I found that Like, I'm involved in local politics, I'm involved in the Chamber of Commerce, and I'm trying to decide between being a Rotarian and a Civitan. But, I'm looking at the different service clubs. And if you can do that, then you become a connector, not just within your group, but across groups. And I have found that it's actually helped, like with the political organization I'm involved with, the fact that I'm a chamber member and I'm active in my Chamber of Commerce. There's like cross currents help. And then, so getting involved in the service organization and bringing that piece of it in, I think will be very helpful as well. So, and if you're in your neighborhood and you want to do like a group, like a play group, or for young kids, I know there were lots of people when I was a young mom, there were lots of folks who had these little play groups that they went to. My ex-husband actually did that because I was working and he was staying home. And he actually went to the neighborhood play group, and he and like one other dude were there, like one other stay-at-home dad, and then with all the stay-at-home moms, and they had this like networking thing, and it was kind of a fun thing because it did get us introduced to some couples that we could like network with and do things with. So that's another thing too about like interests and just kind of moving out from there naturally.
Yeah, you brought up a couple of good things there too. Is you mentioned politics and you mentioned volunteering. It's all these different sort of interests. Another thing that came to my mind was. Within my day job, one thing we do is this corporate challenge. Some groups will go bowling, and others will pull a truck, and there's all sorts of strange things.
Yeah.
But within that, you're going against another company, and you start to meet these people from other companies. And again, now all of a sudden, you've got these contacts at different companies in your town, city, whatever, and it all sort of works out. Where if someone's looking for, in my case, a financial analyst, or maybe someone wants Kyle to be a teacher somewhere, like when you reach out to these different areas, they'll kind of remember you and come back to you compared to just being another resume in a pile.
Right.
Yeah, I like the idea of sort of the cross-cultural pollination you guys are talking about, because what I find is within certain groups or verticals, again, get my MBA here.
I'm working on mine.
Yeah. There tends to be a bit of groupthink, and oftentimes there tends to be a certain group of knowledge that people are like, well, this is best practice and this is how things are done. But if you're coming at things from a bit of a different angle, from a bit of a different world, but obviously have related experience, those insights can be pretty valuable. And like you say, if you've got online experience, hey, welcome to your local Chamber of Commerce, which maybe that's pretty unique. Or maybe, if you've got just basic sales experience, sales is really hard. It's not a natural thing for most people. So maybe you can teach someone something about that. And I'm a fan of those sort of, again, it comes down to like be curious and don't be afraid to meet people and ask questions, really.
Yeah. So the last thing I just want to close on is we gave all these ideas, and there's probably a lot of people either in their career or in their business, they're sitting down at a desk and that's it. That's the amount of time they put in. So all this stuff goes back. It's like if you're not doing any of this, then yeah, find those organizations that you connect with. It could be a political party, a church, any of these kind of things where you can find people of any kind of interest. If you're not attending a conference, you can attend a conference. If you're not using LinkedIn that much, connect with everybody you know there, and you'll start to see opportunities there. Did you have sort of any sort of closing note, as we used to do on the Money Mastermind Show?
Oh my gosh.
I can jump in here real quick.
You do it. I like take it away.
Be a part of the startup scene, wherever you are, whatever company you're currently with, whatever you're currently doing. Whatever the startup scene looks like in your community, get into that, because those are fresh thinkers. Even if you don't have a startup or you're not thinking about startup, maybe you can provide services to a startup. But those people are crazy fonts of wisdom and just new things. So I really like the idea of getting involved with a startup community, whether it's one of those 24-hour startup competitions or whatever the case may be. Look for those people, because they're going to be movers and shakers if they aren't already.
And Miranda, your closing thought?
Follow Tom around. No, listen to the MapleMoney Show. It's super great.
and I already gave mine.
I got nothing for you.
It's all good. I already gave mine. Basically, just starting to even consider networking. I think there's a lot of people I know I see at my day job. They just come in and they do their work. They don't sort of reach out and see about other opportunities beyond just applying for another job.
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing right there, right, is to say, okay, what can I do that's going to give purpose and meaning to my life and my career right now? And networking can help you find that.
There you go. You did have a closing thought after all.
I'm right there.
Okay, thanks for being on, Miranda, and thanks for being on, Kyle.
Thank you so much for having us.
I just missed when we did this weekly.
I know, let's start it up again because we're not busy enough.
Thanks to Miranda Marquit and Kyle Prevost for joining me for this special live episode. You can find show notes for this episode at maplemoney.com/FinCon18. That's FinCon18. If you like this panel discussion format, search for the Money Mastermind Show in your favorite podcast player or head over to moneymastermindshow.com where you'll find over 80 episodes in the archives. Thanks for listening. Next week, we'll get back to our regular Maple Money Show.